Hey everybody, it's me, Shala360, and this is Shine Book Club, and we're doing chapters 17 and 18 of the Shine book. Chapter 17, I think, may be my favorite chapter out of this entire book. I feel like if we had more writing like this, more like really authentic sounding conversations like this, throughout the book, this book would be fire because this conversation that I'm about to tell you about really made me happy. And it shouldn't have made me happy because it's sad because we knew Jason was kind of stupid, but we didn't realize he was that stupid. But it made me happy because it almost felt like she was reciting a conversation she's already had in real life and just putting it to the paper. So chapter 17 is where we left off with chapter 16 with them in the drinking tent, and they saw Kang Jana from Electric Flower at the other table drinking. Well, Kang Jana spots them out of the corner of her eye, and immediately she is up and at their table because she's pissed. And she's there, and it's really bizarre because it seems like the focus of her anger is Rachel. And there's some things that she says to Rachel that just seem like they came out of nowhere. Like, I get that she ran into Rachel when she went to Jeju Island with her boyfriend and she told her that having a boyfriend is dangerous. But there is something that she says that really just, I don't know. You tell me how you feel about it. So I am going to go to. So she's upset because she's been or the statement was that she resigned from Electric Flower, but she's actually been fired. So here's what she says. She lets out a bark of laughter. Oh, please, don't give me that pity bullshit. I know I got kicked out of DB. The whole fucking world knows. Or no, I'm sorry. She flops down into the chair, crossing her legs and nearly falling off before regaining her composure and smiling widely. I chose not to resign. She makes air quotes with her fingers. That's the story they're telling everyone, isn't it? My brow furrows. What do you mean that's the story they're telling everyone? Come on, Rachel, Gina says, the smile wilting off her face. You of all people must know how two-faced the K-pop world is. DB controls everything about our lives, and all of a sudden I'm the one who can't handle the lifestyle. Everything I ever wore, ever said, or ever did was because they told me to. All of this shit. She flashes up her fancy nails, her voice rising. The expensive clothes, the makeup, the beauty products. It's also DB can turn us into whoever they want us to be, make us look perfect for public consumption. And they're saying I'm the one who's the diva? Now, I get you're frustrated, girlfriend, and I feel like you feel like I'm talking to a fellow girl who's under the same system I'm in. But why is it Rachel, you of all people, should know? I feel like she should have focused her anger to Jason. But maybe the reason why she doesn't focus her anger to Jason is because Jason is about to make a wild asshole of himself later on in this chapter. So she puts a bit of tea in here, which again, like I said, this is the best chapter. This chapter is almost worth the price of admission, not really. So Kanjina reveals that when every K-pop trainee signs their initial 7-year contract, they actually also sign a 3-year extension, and that 3-year extension is kept in a vault in Switzerland to be produced at the end of their 7-year contract. And it's post-dated. And I have to say, that is a brilliant move by DB or SM to do whatever, because it makes it almost irrefutable because it is their handwriting. It is their handwriting. And you only have to bring it out if you plan to use it. If you don't plan to use it, you tear it up. It's not going to cost you anything extra. So, wow. I think the only way you could possibly battle that is like the week before your contract extension, you just have to run away. Like, you just have to run away to a foreign country, and you need to hole up in that foreign country, and you need to record yourself the entire time until a week after the date on the contract has passed. And then if they try to enforce it in court, you bring the surveillance video to court to show, I never once mailed them my contract. I never signed this contract. This contract is invalid. Like, that's the only thing I could think you could do that would combat you saying I signed that contract. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Interesting, right? Interesting. So anyway, Rachel's pretty stunned about this. Jason, when Rachel and Jason have their argument, out of all the things that Kang Jin-ah said to her, Jason never brings this up. Like, he never says it's true what she said about the contracts. Which makes me wonder, is it that DB only does that to their female trainees, or do they also do it to every trainee, but he doesn't see that as a bad thing? I don't know. It's a question we're asking. But then after that, Kang Jin-ah reveals that her fucking boyfriend left her. Her fucking boyfriend left her. So, keep reading. Didn't anyone ever tell you this glamour, this fame, it's all an illusion set up by the label, the execs, and then they take everything away from you, framing you as an irresponsible, high-maintenance diva so that no other label will want to touch you with a 10-foot pole, she laughs, but it comes out as a sob. They'll fucking ruin you and make it seem like you're the one who destroyed yourself. Look at me, my career is over. But why, I say, my mind whirling as I try to make sense of what she's saying. Why would they do this to you? What did I tell you, Rachel? She stabs a toothpick into our tteokbokki, holding my gaze. It's dangerous to have a boyfriend as a K-pop star? My stomach sinks. The guy you're with in Jeju, Song Kyu-min? She nods, her voice growing soft. The great Song Kyu-min. When his first 7 years were up, he renegotiated for a better deal. More money. He thought it would be the same for me. He said he was taking me on a secret getaway to talk about it. Some fucking secret, right? The honeymoon capital of the fucking country. And now, well, secret's out. DB's cut and run. And so has he. She takes a shaky breath as I process her words. You mean he broke up with you? Gina covers her face with her hands. Then suddenly she lets out a scream and smashes her fist onto the plate. Tteokbokki sauce flying everywhere and spraying me in the face. Of course he broke up with me. That's how all these stories end. We get boyfriends, we let them ruin our lives. She's talking to you, Jessica. We let them ruin our lives, and they get away scot-free and blameless. You think his label gives a shit about him having a girlfriend? Of course they don't. It's one set of rules for them and another set for us. DB talks about us being family, but they don't care. They don't care about me, about you. They don't care about anyone. All they care about is making us into perfect K-pop machines that will do everything they say and take the money for them. Well, DB can go fuck themselves. Mr. No, Mr. Cho, everybody. Fuck them. I know secrets that would set the K-pop world on fire. Brilliant monologue. Thank you, Kang Jin-ah, for giving us the heat that we wanted the whole time. I appreciate you. You are seen. You are heard. You are loved. So, harrowing stuff. These boys cut and run when the fire could be on them. And I feel bad for Kang Jin-ah. I feel bad for her because when we read about her earlier, she told the guy, what about my fans? What about my career? And he's like, you shouldn't let the label run you. And then the minute her career is compromised, I wasn't talking about none of that wife and shit. I was just talking about, maybe you could get you a deal. I found it fascinating that because he's a guy, because again, this story is framed as a Battle of the Sexes book. That's really what the goalpost is for this, Battle of the Sexes. Because he's a guy, he's able to renegotiate his contract at the end of the 7 years and get a better deal. And I can't help but think that happens a lot more than we think. That a lot of the times when we're like, why do idols resign when they have these shit contracts? I think not only do they renegotiate when it's time to re-up, but they probably start that renegotiation process at least 2 or 3 years before their contracts are up. Because, it's not like they wait until a week before the contract and then all of a sudden they start whining and dining you and trying to finesse you and get you to do these things. No, they start the minute you become big. I would say probably when EXO released the Exact album, SM probably went to them and said, okay, first of all, here are the keys to new Maseratis for everybody. Secondly, how about we talk about renegotiating this royalty split? Because they probably don't want to lose them, because despite what people think about the declining relevancy or record sales of EXO, SM makes obscene amounts of money off these guys, and they would be fools to not want to continue to make this kind of money. So they probably started fairly early on when they knew that EXO were reliable million sellers, and they said, okay, let's talk about what we can do to make you happy right now so that we can give you more money later. And even if they had a lockbox in Switzerland with a 3-year contract with horrible terms, I'm certain that EXO would find a way to make sure they were all in the military when their 7-year contract was up, so that would be completely invalid. If you're a guy idol, that's the other brilliant move for you. If you are a male idol and your 7-year contract is almost up and you haven't gone to the military yet, baby, go to the military a week before your contract is up. Because you're not allowed to sign contracts while you're in the military. You're not allowed to make money. And signing a contract while you're in the military would technically be you endeavoring to make money. So yeah, that's a key. That's a brick of knowledge for you. But yeah, okay. So anyway, after this all happens, Rachel is super shook. She's just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe every nightmare I've ever had in my life just came true for this lady. I'm so scared. And Jason is just like, oh man, sucks to be Kang Jin-ah. And I know I shouldn't read all of chapter 17. I know I shouldn't, but we're going to keep reading because I can't summarize it as well as I can read it because it's not that long. It's like, see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's just a couple pages. No big deal. So yeah, Rachel's sick hearing Kang Jin-ah's story. Here goes Jason. Poor Gina, Jason says, shaking his head. It really sucks what she's going through. She's obviously distressed. Something about the way he says it makes me look at him sharply. Well, of course. You heard everything she said, didn't you? How could she not be distressed? He nods. I heard. But also, I don't know. There are 2 sides to every story. It's true that DB doesn't pay us well, but like Gina said, they also provide us with clothes and apartments. It's not that hard to make ends meet if you're careful, he shrugs. I mean, I've always been treated pretty well by them. That's because you're Jason Lee, I say, frustration building in my chest as I think of what Gina said about Gumin. Of course they'll treat you well. The worst thing you've ever done is steal Romeo's custom orange hair color. What? Jason says, looking at me perplexed. I sigh. Now is not the time to get into the DB rumor mill. It's not important. But don't tell me you haven't noticed the double standard in the industry. It's different for girls than it is for guys. His brow furrows, and I blink, my doubt from earlier in the day rushing furiously back. You have noticed, haven't you? I say, flashing back to practice a few weeks ago, Jason strolling in late with an armful of lotterias, smiling casually at the execs. To be honest, not really, he frowns. At the end of the day, DB is a business. It doesn't really benefit them to treat the guys differently than the girls. My throat is tight. Is he for real? What about the girls at Lotta World? You heard for yourself the praise they had for you versus the nasty things they had to say about me and Mina. Rachel, that's just a couple of people's opinions. Everyone deals with it, even me. It doesn't mean the whole industry is sexist or biased or whatever. I suck in a breath. Oh, wow. He is for real. I laugh in disbelief, wiping my hands against my face and shaking my head. For someone who lives and breathes K-pop, it's amazing how little of it you really see. His frown deepens. What's that supposed to mean? I can't believe I let these things get this far between us. This will ruin me. Hey, don't talk like that. Whatever happened with Kang Jin-ah and her boyfriend, it's different between us. We'll tell Mr. No that we really care about each other, and he'll understand. In fact, he'll probably be happy for us. Happy for us? I snap, pulling my hands away from his. Open your eyes, Jason. They might bend the rules for you and Song Yumin, but not for me. One more misstep and I'm out of DB. Kang Jin-ah was one of the biggest stars, and they didn't just kick her out. They ruined her, and they didn't look back. Imagine how dispensable I am as a trainee. Please, Rachel, you know they're not like that, Jason pleads. They would never do that to you just because you're dating me. I stare at him and I realize that nothing I say is going to make him understand that things are different for me than they are for him. Jason might be the angel boy of DB, but I've had to fight for every step of the way and I still feel like I'm barely hanging on. DB would have no problem cutting me the moment they find a blemish that could tarnish their squeaky clean, picture perfect reputation, and a relationship with Jason would be an irreversible blemish. It's over, Jason, I say, standing up from the table. I can't do this anymore. I've worked too hard for my dreams to let anything stand in my way, even you. Jason stares at me completely in shock. I can't believe how badly you're overreacting. My heart splinters at his words. Whatever I was hoping he would say, that wasn't it. I walk out of the Pojang Matcha without looking back. I can hear Jason calling after me, but I don't care. Once I'm outside, I break into a run. I don't stop until I'm on the subway, out of breath and brokenhearted. I swallow the lump in my throat, refusing to cry. I did the right thing. I think of Eugen and how she put her career on the line to help me make a viral video, how she supports me even when I get her into trouble. I think of my family. I feel ashamed of how I almost let them all down again, how I almost threw away everything I'd been working towards for the last 6 years. I was so swept up in my emotions, but no more. There's only a few weeks left before DB will announce the family tour, and I need to get back on track. From now on, I'll be more focused than ever. Just me, regular trainee life, and completely avoiding Jason Lee. As you fucking should. Fuck that guy. That guy, man. Listen, Jessica, I'm not saying that the guy you're with right now, what's his name, Tyler? What's his name? She said in the crypt. Yeah, Tyler. I don't know necessarily if the guy that you're with now is who Jason Lee is based on. If it is, take your own advice. Don't let no man ruin your career. But if this is based on another idol, which we're all thinking it might be Tekken from 2 p.m. If it is based on another idol, I'm so glad you broke up with that guy because he sounds like an insensitive asshole who's like completely gaslighting you, making you seem like you're completely out of control and hyper-reacting when you literally watched the shit go down. Like, what is it that Jason thinks is so special about you that they would treat you any different than they would treat a known entity who has made millions of dollars for them over and over and over? If they would be willing to get rid of somebody who has made millions for them because they're worried about their reputation, what in the hell makes you think that they're going to risk it all for a fucking trainee at the company? They're not gonna. They're not gonna. She has every right to be scared. She has every right to feel, worried about her future. She has every right to be fucking disappointed in you because you don't get it. You just don't get it. And, man, the fact that I'm reacting like this means that Chapter 17 did its fucking job. And that's all we wanted. Like, honestly, it wasn't that we were reading the story. It could be. Jessica could be Kang Jin-ah. Maybe. It wasn't that we were reading the story and expecting her to be like, and this is who secretly got kicked out of EXO, or this is really what happened between me and the members of SHINee. We weren't expecting that. We were expecting a narrative that was intriguing, a narrative that was engaging, a narrative that had enough real world stuff for it to feel like we're getting a glimpse into your life without getting you in trouble and getting sued. And Chapter 17 is the perfect chapter for that. I hate Jason's guts. I had already started to like Jason when we went to the Lotta World trip, and also I thought he was stupid because he kept doing these big public declarations of love. But in this chapter, he's irredeemable to me. I'm sorry. Unless he quits DB to save Rachel at some point, I just don't see it for him. I do not, because he seems too fucking dumb. And, as a romantic partner, don't you want to have smart kids? Do you want them to have a dumbass as a daddy? I would never go back to Jason if I was her. If Rachel's smart, don't ever go back to Jason. But anyway, after they decide to start or break up, Rachel starts avoiding Jason. But then they find out they're going on a tour of Toronto to promote the Summer Heat single, which I find bizarre. I find that super bizarre. Like, trips to the United States fall under very specific criteria for the most part. Most of the time, if a brand new group is going to the United States, they're going to attend a festival, maybe two festivals. It's going to be to the US. They might do one stop in Canada, and then they're back home. Or if it's a veteran group, they might hit like New York, Chicago, Miami, Dallas, and Los Angeles, maybe either San Francisco or San Diego, and then they're back home. Uh, they're going on a tour of Canada. They're going to Toronto, and I think they might be going to Vancouver, but like they're doing a tour of Canada. And they're doing multiple television shows while they're touring Canada, which is bizarre to me because they're not an established group. There's been nothing stated to say that they're affiliated with an American label. That's the other reason why you would be able to tour multiple places, is that you would be like Super M, where you have an American contract with an American record label, and as part of that contract, you get touring support. But yeah, just three people with one song that was released in Korea going on a tour of Canada. That shit's bizarre. It shit's bizarre. But anyway, they take the private plane that Mina's dad lets them use to fly to Canada, and Jason is like putting on his asshole swag because he's like half mad at Rachel, half wanting to get her back. And it's just like, I don't get it. I agree. It doesn't make any sense to me to tour overseas with two barely known trainees. Exactly. So Rachel's kind of like, she's struggling because she's trying to avoid him, and he's actively in her face and trying to annoy her and do all these things to like get at her, get her emotional, maybe get her to have a response. Also, Rachel's dad graduated from law school. Again, as soon as I get to Levin, the story, something stupid happens. So at the beginning of chapter 18, her dad's like, hey, take this card. She takes the card, looks at it, and realizes it's an invitation to her dad's graduation from law school, which, congratulations to Rachel's dad for graduating from law school. He still hasn't told his wife. He still hasn't told his wife. He hasn't told his other daughter. And he invites Rachel to go to his law school graduation. But of course, Rachel can't go because she's got to go on this big tour for DB. And so she watches her dad's graduation online, sends him hugs and kisses through text message. And that's where it goes. And I mean, I'm sorry, but I've been a married person before. I'm a divorcee, but I've been a married person before. And I just don't understand how two people can be married in the house together, raising kids, trying to have some sort of life schedule. And this man is able to not only enroll in law school without telling his wife, is able to pay for law school without telling his wife, is able to attend law school without telling his wife, and is able to graduate law school and still is not going to tell his wife. He's not going to tell his wife that he graduated law school until he gets a job as a lawyer. Which, if my husband came home and told me, hey, I have a big surprise for you, and I'm like, baby, what's the surprise? And he's like, I graduated from law school and got a job at a firm. I'd be like, is this some kind of joke? What do you mean graduated from? When were you attending law? What do you really have to tell me? Like, it would be an argument it would be a complete argument in my house, because this is a side tangent. As a person who's been married before, especially if you have children, there's a lot of scheduling that parents do in order to be around their kid's life. Like, I am divorced, so I basically do my own thing. But like, back when me and my husband had a small child in the house, we had to coordinate who would drop her off at daycare, who would pick her up from daycare, who would drop stuff off at the school, making sure we're getting diapers, and who's cooking dinner, and all these other things. And this whole time when Rachel's mom was like, I'm not going to be able to come home tonight because I've got essays to grade, or I've got a seminar I've got to teach, or I'm taking extra classes to help keep the household afloat, her husband has been doing something where he's like, I'm not available, I'm at the gym. Even though she knows the gym's not making money, she's probably resentful because the gym is not making money, and she's having to like bend her back over to handle his slack in the household. And he's just free to go ahead and go off and get a law degree. Like, yeah, we would be on the verge of divorce if that was my family. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Nice to see you, Jordan, by the way. So that happens. And then Dan's probably wondering where the money is going. I would too. Because apparently the boxing gym is not doing well. And that's the reason why he decided to be a lawyer. So that shit's crazy. Anyway, along with the narrative about Rachel's dad graduating from law school and still not telling anybody, we get kind of an update with Akari. And the update with Akari really frustrated me because, again, Rachel's just a shitty ass person. But they try to couch it in like, it's Akari who's the one who's being standoffish. So they talk about this interaction that they had where they were in Eugen. I always say her, I want to call her Eugen, but it's Eugen. They're in Eugen's office, and Eugen tells Rachel about this tour she's going to go on. And Akari's in there watering the plants. And Akari is leaving the office with Rachel, and Rachel's like, Akari, listen, I need to tell you something. She hesitated outside the door. I should really get back to training, she said, looking down the hall. Please, I begged her. I need to catch up with my best friend. There might even be some free food in it for you. She turned to me, a small smile playing on her lips. I'm not the one who can never say no to free food, goof. I clasped my hands under my chin, giving her my best puppy dog eyes. Okay, she laughed. 10 minutes. You know I have something I wanted to talk to you about, too. Rachel Kim! You better be prepared to lose a few more inches off that thigh gap. Fitting room, right now, and do some jumping jacks on the way. I turned to Akari. I'm sorry, I guess I have to go, I say, my voice laced with guilt. Right, she replied, but her voice sounded flat, hollow. Of course. We all have important things to do. I'll text you tonight, I said, hesitantly, but she was already walking away and didn't seem to have heard me. We haven't spoken since. Then, this is the line that pisses me off. I scroll through my phone looking at days worth of messages I've sent her, all unanswered. Tears unexpectedly fill my eyes. If Akari's been your best friend since you got to DB, and maybe this is something that has to do with age, I'm willing to say this might have to do with age. I'm a grown woman. And if I have my friend's phone number, because I do have some friends that are like strictly social media friends, I do not have their phone numbers, I cannot call them. And then I have a few social media friends that I actually have like their legit phone number and I can call them on the phone if I need to. If I have your phone number and you haven't answered my text messages in days, and you told me the last time I saw you, I have something I need to talk to you about, then I would call you. I would just call you. Like, I haven't heard from you in days. You had something important to tell me, but when I write you text messages, you don't write me back. I'd be concerned and I'd be like, hey girl, I'm just calling because we haven't talked in forever. You're not answering my text messages. I just really need to be in contact with you. And at the beginning of chapter 18, she says that she's been spending hours at her dad's gym pounding out her frustration at Jason. If you had hours to spend at your dad's gym, you could have taken 2 of those hours and you could either sat in the training offices and trained your butt off like you should be doing, or maybe you could take 2 of those multiple hours that you have not thinking about Jason and go visit your girl Akari. You know Akari is training her ass off. She's probably at DB Entertainment every single day. Find some time. Look at this. They have a schedule board for the training rooms. She can look at the schedule board and see when's the next time Akari's going to be training and go to her in the training room like, hey girl, I haven't talked to you in forever and I'm just worried that our friendship is falling off because I've been so busy with everything. And I also want to know, how are you doing, girl? Are you okay? How's training going for you? I feel so disconnected from you and I just want to get us back connected. It's not a lot. But that's what friendship is. It's actually investing the time. It's stepping outside of yourself. Now, I'm not saying we can't be selfish. You can be selfish if you need to. Sometimes you need to like look out for self because friends can really hurt your feelings. And when that happens, best to look out for you than let yourself be trampled by them. But Akari has been consistently on Rachel's side the entire time. There's never been a time when Akari has betrayed Rachel, treated Rachel wrong, told anybody Rachel's secret. She's always looked out for Rachel in the best way possible. And Rachel has never repaid Akari for this. Ever. There's been nothing that she's done, not even as far as to being like, I saw you getting punished the other day from one of the trainers. What happened? She hasn't done it. And I just, man, Akari's the best. Rachel's the worst. And even though I love how Rachel talked to Jason in chapter 17, I hate the way that she just doesn't seem to be at all invested in trying to make things right with Akari. So anyway, they get to Toronto and they start their Canadian tour. And they end up on a television show, and the television person, of course, has like softball questions for the girls, like, which one of you is the last to get ready to get into hair and makeup? Which this story is supposed to be taking place in 2020, and people have tried to be very careful about the kind of sexist questions they used to ask in the past, so I'm surprised that this is a thing. But anyway, Rachel's about to answer this stupid sexist question, and Jason puts his hand on her leg, which, oh my gosh, why would you do that? Don't you know that the fans are going to hate that? And he's like, I'll answer it. It's me. I'm the one who takes the longest. Then, because this interviewer is like super gauche and just doesn't have any tact at all, he's like, hey, Jason, are you feeling melancholy about being back in the town where your mom died? It's just like, really? Really? So then, while they're having the interview, Jason's like, yeah, I wish I could have more time here, but we're going to be going to New York soon. And both Rachel and me are like, what? Which, hello? Why would you reveal that on television? I guess because Jason feels like, oh, they must have told everybody we're going to New York. Which again, because Jason's absolutely fucking clueless and doesn't realize he gets treated better than everybody else, he just assumed, yeah, everybody knows we're going to New York. They get backstage and Mr. Han's like, hey, give me your passports. I need to get some paperwork taken care of so we can go to New York. Which, FYI, managers usually hold the passports. Usually the celebrities don't have the passport, so it'd be really weird for them to get out of an interview and be like, hey, hand me your passport real quick. I know you're hiding it in your costume, you know? So, of course, Rachel's like kind of Debbie Downer because she's like, I was not told we were going to New York. This is a total surprise. New York represents like my past life when I was happy, and this K-pop shit has been some bullshit. And apparently everybody looks at her like she's crazy because she's not super happy to go to New York, which if I was Rachel, I would have answered their kind of looks of why aren't you happy by being like, oh, you know, I'm just sad because if I had known we were going to New York, I would have asked my mom and dad if they wanted to come too because we've all been away from home for so long. She could have said something like that instead of being like, I'm so excited. But anyway, that is the end of chapter 18. We're in the home stretch, fellas. We got 8 more chapters, and I'm super duper excited to get this thing over with. I appreciate the fact that this is an experience that we're all getting to share, but it has been a little bit grueling to get through this experience because there have been some really slow moments in this thing. I'm so glad you guys are letting me do 2 chapters at a time. It really has taken a weight off of me and makes the finish line look a lot closer than it did initially. And if you have not already bought the book and you've just been going by what I'm telling you, I hope I didn't scare you away from possibly buying this book. That wasn't my intention at all. It really was. I felt like this was a conversation for people who have read the book already, or at least have read up to the place that I'm at. But I also understand a lot of you don't have $16 or $17 to waste on a book that might not be that great. So hopefully I've been giving justice to what's been written on the page. So Jordan says, it's very confusing for me. It doesn't sound fun at all. I don't know what part of her experience would make her want to continue being a K-pop idol, Rachel. Exactly. Rachel makes it seem like being a K-pop idol is no fun at all. Like nothing good has happened to her. And that's the other thing too. I got a PDF. If I was Rachel, our maybe take that back. If I was Jessica and I was writing this and I wanted my fans to see me and see my real life and what I went through and everything else, I think probably as a thank you to fans, I would also go ahead and be like, and this is a really lovely moment that Rachel had. And this moment with a fan, whether it was a little girl or a little boy, whoever, caused her to feel like this is worth it. This is worth the time and the effort, because in a lot of ways, the fans aren't a consideration for anybody in this story except for Kang Jin-ah. Kang Jana is the only person who has said out loud that she's worried about the fans being disappointed if she leaves DB. But Rachel has only talked about like what Jason's fans are like, or the fans are hating me, or whatever else like that. Or she's talked about like getting the views and people generally liking it, but she's never said anything about like, and part of being a K-pop idol and getting famous is a chance to like be an inspiration to other people or anything like that. But I'm not corny enough to think that you become an idol because you care so much about other people. Like, I'm not dumb. But I just feel like, that is a PR move that you could have stuck in there as part of Rachel's character, is that, when my mom showed me K-pop and it inspired me, I wanted to be that inspiring person for other little girls and make them feel proud of being Korean. You could have stuck that in there, Rachel. That's all you needed. I don't think that it will hit Rachel until she actually performs in front of her own fans. Well, she's performing now. She's on tour of Canada. It hasn't hit yet. She's on this tour of Canada. Apparently, she's a superstar, and that's why they're touring. I am so sorry, Susanna, because you finally joined a live, and I am almost over with this thing. I've been on for 36 minutes doing this book review, so it's just about done. But yeah, just a little bit more kind of that moment, or maybe like after Summer Heat debuted and you became popular and people knew who you were, something about like as that happened, people in my school who had never talked to me before, like, I was afraid to talk to you before because you were a K-pop trainee and I didn't really know that much about you, but after hearing you sing, I'm really excited for you and I'll be rooting for you. That's a really easy interaction you can write into the book. Or she could talk about how like to the office after the song was released that fans had left presents for her and Mina, because that stuff happens. Fans go to the administrative buildings for these K-pop companies and they leave presents for their favorite people. So you could talk about people starting fan cafes and talking about her, people starting fan sites to talk about her. Like, that's a lot of stuff that could be in this too. Jordan says maybe it's a warning for all the dreamers to run away. It could be. Maybe she wrote this as being like an anti-K-pop manifesto and being like, these are all the reasons why you shouldn't fuck with K-pop because it'll ruin your life. And if that's the case, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I mean, I'm not saying that you're wrong to feel that way. Absolutely. K-pop was really rough to you, Jessica. And if that's the way you feel, I get it. Because at the end of the day, you experienced this all more than anybody else. And if the cons outweighed the pros, you have a right to express that. But you also spend your acknowledgments thanking the fans. They're the first people you thank in the acknowledgments. And you have to realize that this book wouldn't have sold anywhere near what it sold if it wasn't for those people. So in a lot of ways, you and the fans have a relationship. And that relationship deserves a little space in your book. I really think it does, because this book would not sell at all if it wasn't connected with your name and the fandom that followed you from SNSD to your solo endeavors. And I mean, if Jessica really does like hate her fans, or if she doesn't think that it's been positive for her at all, then why didn't you write a horror novel about like fans that go too far, or like some like twisted Black Mirror type shit? That would have been entertaining to read. I would have enjoyed that. But like, from the point of view of Rachel, you have very little reasons to think that Rachel really wants this. Between her saying, I had inspiration when I was a little girl, I have talent, there's so many things that she does, behaviors that she displays, that makes you believe that she really doesn't care about the idol thing. She doesn't really spend all of her free time that's available to train and do stuff relating to being an idol. Her family seems like they don't support it even though they moved to another country. And then like just her overall attitude, she spends a lot of time concentrating on the negatives, and she's scared and she's unprepared and all this other stuff. And it's like, after 6 years, you'd think, number one, you'd be extremely guarded and on edge and ready to do almost anything to debut, and you wouldn't make the mistake of trying to have a love life and trying to date the star of another boy group. But it also seems like after 6 years, the hunger to make it would show. and you wouldn't just accidentally do stupid stuff. Like, it seems like after 6 years, you would know better than to drink something that your enemy gave you at a house party. After 6 years, you would know what these fucking house parties were about. It wouldn't be news to you. It seems like after 6 years, you'd have more than one trainee in the entire building who wants to be friends with you. After 6 years, a lot of things should have happened. And it just feels like Rachel just got here last week. So it's just hard to root for her. It's very hard to root for her. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me for my other review. I will see you again on Sunday as we do chapters 19 and 20. By the time next week is over, we'll be done. Oh my gosh, I just realized Sunday is the 1st of November, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That means after 19 and 20, 21 and 22, I'm supposed to live stream on election night here in America. I don't know if I want to, guys. I'm gonna be really honest with you. I might upload.
Well, it would be a good distraction.
I might upload. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I might upload the day before. I don't know. I feel like I don't even want to be around my cell phone during that time period, to be quite honest with you.
We could go on a nature trip.
I don't want to be out in nature because I don't know what the results will be, and I don't want anybody to come hunt me down. So I don't know. I might just bunker in, watch some Good Boys Love, and call it a night because
turn your Twitter notifications off.
It's just
turn your notifications off. Have a full Boys Love day.
I don't know what I'm
gonna do.
Put on one
of those blockers that blocks like certain apps or websites, so that you can't go looking for it even if you try.
I mean, I don't want to. I mean, in 2016, when Trump won, I did not look at the news. I went to bed early that night, and I woke up the next day, and I checked it real quick, and then I turned it right back off because I was stressed as shit. And I feel like this election cycle has been the most stressful election cycle I've ever been through. So, yeah, I don't know if my mind will be there for reading this book, but
please
we'll see.
Make this man.
We'll see what happens as we get closer and closer to the 3rd. I can't promise anything, but as we get closer and closer to the 3rd, I will decide what I need to do. But I'm really feeling like it might be that I do it a day early. I think I might live stream on the Monday instead of the Tuesday.
November 3rd is
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
It's all the elections are always a Tuesday. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk with you later. Bye.